This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. We're back. Week 1, the regular season. Patriots finally playing a real game tomorrow in Cincinnati, 1 o'clock. Today's going to be mostly Bengals preview, but we're also going to kind of dive in right at the beginning to our general season predictions, go down the schedule week by week, and maybe talk about when we think May could slide in there as well. So a bunch of stuff on tap today, but we're finally here. It's been a while. It's been a million weeks, it feels like, but football's back. We've had it the past couple nights. So it's great to be back. But I'm here with my co-host, Jace Campbell. How's it going, Jace?
Yeah, it's going good. It's going to be good anytime we have a Patriots game on tomorrow. So super excited for that. Hopefully, it's lives up to the hype. I mean, obviously, if Drake May was starting week 1, it would be a little bit more. But, you got the Bengals coming into town, the return of Joe Burrow, where he's been hurt at the end of last season, and kind of some question marks for them, right, on the receiver front, especially with both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase not listed on the injury report and things like that, obviously with contract dispute and things like that. So could be a very winnable game, could be one of the few, in my opinion, right off the rip, that you kind of look at and say, hey, if things go the Patriots way, this could be one of the few wins they have in the first couple weeks, as they have a brutal schedule right off the rip. But no, I'm super excited to finally watch them play meaningful football.
Yeah, and we'll dive into that and the injury report and everything in a little while. But yeah, it's good to be back. Started out with a couple great games, first couple nights between Chiefs Ravens and then Packers Eagles last night. I guess I don't think we've had a podcast since things changed with Instagram. So I guess I'll just say we now, our Instagrams are combined, so we are both at Pat's Drive, and we're putting out content on there together. So that's why both our handles are that. So just follow us there and stay tuned for some more content.
Yeah, Cole is bad. He got banned, and then he had to beg to join on here on my account. So no, Instagram's stupid. They have no customer support. They don't reply to emails, and there was a misunderstanding, and he lost his account. And so yeah, we're now on one force, just like we're on the podcast, and going to be uploading clips and all that stuff. So that's
super excited about it.
Of attack. Yeah. Well, let's jump into some season schedule predictions. Cole, we'll pull this up here and kind of just start right off the rip. Obviously, we'll get way more into depth about tomorrow's game against the Bengals, but maybe let's just talk about the top row. Let's start off with you. Give me your win-loss projections for the first 6 weeks right there, games 1 through 6, and then, let me know who you see us winning and then who you see us losing against.
Yeah, it's a tough stretch there at the beginning. Obviously, they have more of a chance than they did at this Bengals game starting right off. But going Bengals, Seahawks, Jets, San Fran, Miami, and then are we including Houston in there too? Top 6. I think those are all playoff teams, and I think 3 or 4 of those have deep playoff aspirations. So it's certainly not a great start to your schedule. Your second 6 looks a little bit lighter, but I don't know. I see somewhere around 2-4, maybe 3-3 if you're lucky, but I think probably 2-4 is more realistic. And honestly, it's kind of strange, but the games I feel the best about are the first 2. Cincinnati, you're catching them at a good time. Burrow, I think, threw like 4 picks in one of his season openers a couple years ago. Typically starts slow. Jamar, I'm sure he's going to be good if he plays, but he hasn't had much practice. Higgins is doubtful. I feel decent about this week. They also had one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL last year. We're going to run the ball a ton. I don't feel great about our offensive line. That obviously is a concern. And City So's out, so that's tough. But I don't know. I think if you're going to win, your best shot is these first 2, and then Seattle at home, traveling cross country for a 1 o'clock game. Jets is tough on a Thursday night, short week. Don't love that. San Fran, no chance there. Miami, we just haven't been able to beat them since Tua's been around basically. So, and then I think Houston's a great team. I don't think we're gonna get a win there either. So I think if you're gonna win 2 of them, you gotta take the first 2, and then you're maybe Houston if you somehow catch them at a good time. But yeah, I think probably 2 and 4 over the first stretch is your maybe best case scenario.
Yeah, I would say like 3 and 4 is best case scenario, just coming out of there with one random win. Maybe you pick up one against the Dolphins at home or the Texans at home for that matter. But I agree with you. I think that you could easily, like, the first 2 weeks, as hard as they can be, because you don't know about the Seahawks yet. They still have a lot of talent and they still have playoff hopes. They're in a tough division, though. Seahawks are going to be really good, and you get them at home, luckily. You're going to go. You're going to Cincinnati week 1. Obviously, Joe Burrow's coming off of his injury. You already said it. Jamar Chase hasn't been practicing, but that's a top 5 receiver in the NFL when he's healthy and playing like he can. So that's going to be a challenge no matter what. But yeah, I think that tomorrow, week 2 at Seattle are the 2 that you're like, hey, those are the ones that I could potentially see a victory. But after that, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, the Jets will be tough. That defense is no joke. The Niners are obviously a Super Bowl contender. They're going to be up there if not in the Super Bowl again. And then we all know the struggles with the Dolphins. At least it's at home, so maybe you could finally get over the hump now that it's not Mac Jones. Mac Jones was the one that could never beat Tua or whatever, but maybe now that's kind of the hump. But yeah, and then the Texans, who have CJ Stroud, they just added Stephon Diggs. They got better defensively. It's a tough first stretch. So I think that I agree with you, 2 and 4. I would say if I was going to project a third win, as much as I hate to say it, I think it would be the Dolphins at home, because I don't think it's likely. We just never seem to beat them. But I think if you're going to pick up a third win out of that top row, it's going to come most likely against the Dolphins at home. And maybe Gerard Mayo has a game plan to stop Tyreek Hill and Tua that Bill didn't. I highly doubt that, but that would be maybe my shot at getting a third win is, hey, you just spent 2 weeks on the road. Now you're going to come home. You're going to play an in-division opponent. Now maybe you can pick up a win. So that's where I would say the third win comes on that top row is if Bengals, Seahawks, and then the Dolphins would be mine. Like, hey, those are the 3 that I could see them winning. They could also very easily go 1 and 5 in this first 6 games. Like I see a way.
0 and 6 is possible too.
Not wrong. I mean, I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to put it out there, but 1 and 5, 0 and 6 is also very much in play in this first 6, and it kind of sucks to admit that.
Yeah, it's just a tough start. I think 0 and 6 is the worst case. I think, like you said, maybe 3 and 3 is best case. I'll probably sit at 1 and 4, 1 and 5, 2 and 4 is the what I think is the most realistic there. I don't know. It's gonna be real interesting to see this weekend. I think we're gonna be able to learn a lot about this O-line against real competition. You're going up against one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, Trey Hendrickson, who had like 17 and a half sacks last year. He's going to be lined up against Chuks Okorafor probably on that left side. That's not a matchup that you love. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that first 6 is a gauntlet. We know this team is not going to be super competitive this season necessarily. So I just think with the O-line being what it is, Jacoby being the player he is, he's not a guy who can make some of the plays out of structure that maybe a Drake May can. So this first stretch, if Jacoby's starting these games, that's kind of where the way I see it. But if you had to pick, do you think Drake May will be starting by any of these games in this 6-game stretch?
No, I don't think it's in this 6-game stretch. If I had to guess, I mean, we'll get to the second row right here. If I had to guess, I think it comes some point either October 27th against the Jets or maybe after the 2-week span on the road at home against the Rams. I don't know if I see him starting going over to England and starting week 1, over there. So I could see it, if you're it's very, for me, as much as I hate the idea of him starting behind the offensive line, if you start out 1 and 5 and you lose the game into Jacksonville, and now you're all of a sudden 1 and 6 going into the Jets game, why not start him? Let him get 4 to 5 weeks under his belt, take a bye week, and then finish out the season. So that's still where I kind of see it. Especially, I think when we first reacted to the schedule, we were saying, hey, maybe like December 1st, the Colts game, or maybe after the bye. But with how well he performed and all the things we heard, that timeline's probably pushed up a little. I think the October 27th would be, if I had to put money on it right now, that would be maybe where I'm like, that's where I could see the season kind of being out of reach at that point and just saying, hey, let's go with Drake May now. It's his time. He's had 7 weeks to sit. That's where I could see him going in.
I wouldn't start him his first week against the Jets defense. I think you're really throwing him into the fire there. That defense is absurd. And we'll see if Hassan Reddick is back by then or if he's still holding out. I think I don't mind having his first start on the road. I know communication wise it's not ideal, but if you can wait till that next week at Tennessee, that's not going to be a crazy matchup. You know what I mean? So I think that would make sense. I think October 6th against the Dolphins at home, I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think they're going to want to start him that early based off comments that we've heard. So I think you're probably right. I think you're closer to where he'll actually start that end of October, beginning of November. But that Bears defense right after is no joke either. They're pretty good. And then you got the Rams at home, which is, I don't think that's a bad matchup. I think that would be a good place to start too. I want to see him before middle of November. I think that's crazy. And I just want to say, Dennis, thank you. We appreciate it. We look forward to having you around as well. And I do think Stevenson will have 60 yards and a touchdown. I think that they're going to feed him the rock a lot, and this defense is not spectacular against the run. So we'll see if the O-line can hold up.
If you stay tuned, Dennis, we have some over-under pick'ems by Underdog Fantasy too, and Ramondre is definitely on there. So, then you can always send us your drafts. I mean, I'm a draft fanatic, so as soon as the season ends, maybe even before the season ends, I'll be talking draft and stuff. But once we do live shows and stuff in mock drafts, you can always just send us to them on Instagram. So make sure you follow our Instagram, which is just Pat's Drive on IG, and you can send us to them there, and we'll react to them on live shows. So,
yep.
But let's move on to kind of the bottom row, right? So now week 7, you go to England and you play the Jaguars. I think that's another winnable game. Like, there's very few winnable games on here. I just don't think the Jaguars are that good. I don't believe in Trevor Lawrence. I also don't believe in Mac Jones in that offense. But I don't think Trevor Lawrence is that good. So I think that's another winnable game. Obviously, now you get the Jets at home, which could go both ways. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is going to make a huge difference. Like, I don't think the Jets are Super Bowl contenders. But that, like you said, that defense is legit. Aaron Rodgers has a bona fide number 1 receiver in Garrett Wilson. Breece Hall is good, and that team can be very tough to beat. So that one would be tough. Titans should be a very comparable game, right? That should be like, hey,
that's the most winnable game of the season.
Yeah, that's the Patriots-Giants from last year when we missed the field goal. Thank you, Chad Ryland, for Drake May. But that's the Patriots-Giants from last year, kind of the toilet bowl. And then you're going this would also be another spot I could see Drake May starting. Hey, your first start's going to be against Caleb Williams, who will now have 9 weeks of starting experience under his belt. But that would probably be a primetime matchup. You'd throw it in there. You'd be like, hey, there you go. Bears and Patriots. Drake May, the number 3 pick. Caleb Williams, the number 1 pick. I don't know how the Bears are going to be. It was really weird hearing Bill Belichick talk about Caleb Williams preseason. And I did kind of agree with some of the stuff he said. He didn't look like he was going to be a superstar. That doesn't mean he's not. Caleb Williams is going to be really freaking good. And that receiving core around him is going to be so good. So that's going to be a tough game. The Rams are always tough. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the NFL. Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks. I wouldn't say one of the best, but he's so experienced throwing to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. That offense is going to be tough to stop. And then obviously the Dolphins in Miami is really hard. So now you go to that second row. It's a little more favorable than the top row, but still, you got to play the Jets, who have a top 5 defense. You got to play the Bears, who are going to have a superstar quarterback plus all those receivers. You got to play the Rams, who I have a ton of respect for. And then you got to play the Dolphins again, who never seem to lose to us and always play us hard. So now you're talking what? That's 12 games. You're going into week 13 against the Colts. I could legitimately see the Patriots being 4-8 right there. Right? That would be 4-8. I see, there being a couple wins on the top row, depending on how it is. I see there being the only ones I feel comfortable in saying there's wins on is the Jaguars and the Titans on that second middle row.
Yeah. I just threw a poll up as well. If you guys want to vote, just give us your thoughts on how many wins you think the Pats will end up with this season. Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the ones that you stated as far as the winnable games go. Like, I don't know. I don't think we're gonna beat the Jets this year. I don't know if we get a division win this year at all, to be honest. I know division games are always weird, so maybe throw one in there, and that could come against the Jets, I guess. But I just think they're pretty well rounded. They have so much talent. I think the London game is winnable. The Jags are like a solid team, but they just aren't like, I don't know. They're good, but they don't seem that good. It's kind of a weird balance for them. But Tennessee, the Bears, if you can kind of fool the rookie and get some pressure on him, make him make a couple mistakes, maybe. The Rams, I agree. I think there's a lot more winnable games in that stretch than the first stretch, but I still just don't love our chances. I think probably 3 wins is your best case scenario, maybe 4. I mean, I'd say best case scenario if everything's going well, if Drake May comes in and looks good. 4 wins is your best case scenario. I'd say you should. If you don't end up with 2 wins out of this 6-game stretch, then we're in for a rough year.
Yeah, this is in my opinion, the most favorable stretch because you don't have to play the Bills, which you're going to have to play twice in the last 3 weeks, which is going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be either fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC or they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot, depending on how the division works out. So that they're going to be going, all hands on deck. So yeah, I see them 4-12 through the first 2 weeks, for the first 2 rows. The Colts is another weird one I compared to the Jaguars, right? If Anthony Richardson's healthy, they're going to be good. Michael Pittman's good. A.D. Mitchell's going to be really good. Jonathan Taylor's really good. So this is a weird one. I'm going to say at home, Patriots pick up a win here. Hopefully, Drake May's been starting by 3 or 4 weeks by now. They get a win before the bye, right? They're able to go get a win, take the bye week, prepare for Arizona. I think Arizona is going to be better than what they were last year. Obviously, Kyler Murray's at full health, added Marvin Harrison Jr. That's another win I could see right there. I could definitely see them winning there. I'm not going to give them the win against them just because we seem to struggle against those running type quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison's going to propose a huge threat. Trey McBride's also really good. Bills are obviously going to be very tough on the road. Chargers, not very good, but Herbert is an elite quarterback. Herbert is really good. And at this point in the season, they might have it figured out, right? Jim Harbaugh will now have his stamp on the team by that point. If you're playing the Chargers in that first row of games, the first 6 weeks, I think it's different. You're playing them at week 17 here, probably a little bit tougher. At least you have them at home. And then obviously the Bills come back at home. So if I had to put my record, I would put the line at 5.5 for the Patriots over under on wins. I would probably bet the under. I would probably say they're at 5 wins this year. I could see them getting to 6. I can see them getting 6 wins. But if I had to bet, I'd put 5 wins on for the Patriots.
Yeah, that would be mine as well. If the line was 4.5, I'd be scared to take the over.
Yeah.
But if it was 5.5, I'd feel pretty confident with the under. I don't think they're going to pick up more than 1 win in the first stretch. And I feel like in the second stretch of 6, you grab 2 of those. And in the last stretch, you grab 2 of those. And the winnable ones, I'm going to say, like you said, Colts and then Cardinals, Chargers. Those are the 3 for me. I know we struggle against mobile quarterbacks sometimes, but Cardinals did not have many wins last year. So you should pick up, you should have a chance against them. Hopefully May starts week 5. That'd be nice. So that's kind of how I see it. I see it 1 out of the first 6, 2 out of the next 6, and 2 out of the last 6. And hopefully you're kind of building momentum by that time. And Drake May looks like he's showing promise. It's so hard to tell because we haven't seen what he looks like. We haven't seen how the O-line looks. Obviously it's a season prediction. So like there's a lot of unknowns, but I'm hoping by halfway through the season, Drake May is getting in there and starting, and then we start to build momentum towards the end of the year, like the Lions did a few years ago when they started to build their playoff run. You knew they were going to be good the next year because they finished with like 7 wins out of the last 8 games. So you just hope to see some promise towards the end of the year, show some just chemistry and improvement with May and the offense, and hope you can go into the offseason feeling good, feeling like maybe some free agents want to come here. Maybe you draft a left tackle or whatever the situation is with the draft pick there, and you start to become more of a division contender, playoff wildcard contender next season. So this year, it's not about necessarily just the wins. It's about building for the future and seeing some of these pieces who are supposed to be our future starting to look good.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing for me is obviously I want Elliott Wolf put the tanking to bed, right? Like they're not out there purposefully tanking. And I like that. Like, I don't think that builds any culture or anything in the system. Now, they're not going to be very good. I think if they win 5 to 6 games, they're probably sitting in the 8 to 12 pick range, which is in prime position to land you a guy like Will Campbell, depending on how he plays. Maybe you get offensive tackle too, whether it's Kelvin Banks from Texas or someone else. You could also, hey, maybe both the tackles are off the board, and hey, maybe we just need one more receiver for Drake May. Maybe you go get a Tedero McMillan from Arizona. Maybe go get a Luther Burden from Missouri, and then you figure out left tackle in free agency, which is a lot harder to do because there's just not that many good left tackles that hit free agency. But I see them being in that 8 to 12 pick range, and that's better than being picked 3 than they were last year. And yeah, like you said, the last week, hopefully the last 4 weeks after the bye week, you're saying, hey, we know who this team is going to be next year. Drake May is going to be our star quarterback. Ramondre is going to be really good running the ball. You've developed some of your guys, maybe Layden Robinson, Caden Wallace have established himself as guys, Owenu, and then maybe you find a backup center for when David Andrews does retire. You obviously need to see Keon White step up, Christian Gonzalez stay healthy, Pop Douglas, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, some of those guys develop. That's what I'm looking for in this year. That's where I'm going to be like, hey, after weeks or after the bye week, how do we look for the next season? And I mean, obviously, if we were to make the playoffs, that would be awesome. But I think it's very delusional for us to stand up here in front of Patriots fans and be like, hey, we're going to be 13-4. I just don't see how that happens unless it's a CJ Stroud type year. And Elliott Wolf already said that's freaking crazy. And that's an anomaly, which it is. It's very hard to do what CJ Stroud did his rookie year. And we already aren't going to have Drake May starting week 1, so it's already going to be hard for him to put up those huge numbers. But how does he progress once he does start? How do the young guys come along? How do they look for next year? So I'm excited, though. I mean, it's a different excitement than when we were AFC Championship contenders, NFL or Super Bowl contenders. It's a different excitement because I feel like there's pieces that we need to, like, as much as I loved Christian Gonzalez last year, we still need to see him. He only played a couple of games. We still need to see how he is. So
be a big test this weekend. Yeah,
it'll be a huge test this weekend, right? And you look at the first couple games, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Garrett Wilson. You got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill. You got Stephon Diggs. I mean, he's going to be going up against number 1 wide receivers every single week. So super excited to see that. Super excited to see the development of some of these guys later on in the year, early in the year, and just kind of look forward to the future, even though I'm super excited for this year and stuff and think it could be really fun to watch some of these guys grow.
You know what's so frustrating is that you look at this schedule and you're like, almost every team on here has a star wide receiver. Why is it so hard for us to find one? Like you just listed it off,
man. We tried to take one from one of the teams we played.
You just listed it off the first 6, all those, but you go past that. I mean, Jaguars are the only one really without, and then Jets, like you mentioned, Garrett Wilson. Titans have Calvin Ridley, D-Hop. Rams have Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Dolphins, we already talked about that. Colts, we talked about Michael Pittman.
A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah. Cardinals, Marvin Harrison Jr. Bills, nothing. And then Chargers.
Not yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So they both have first-round wide receivers, though they just drafted. So that's an unknown. But it's like, what the heck? It's just, just frustrating. Let me just a couple questions here, I guess that we'll touch on real quick. Jordan Love's injury status. They said he's getting an MRI today. They ruled out an ankle injury, but it's fearful that he tore his ACL, which is awesome because Jace made us pick him in Dynasty.
Yeah, because he's a dog.
Dogs don't tear their ACLs. Yes, this would be very exciting. But if you don't have a tackle,
I talked about this with I was talking about this with Gabe Pats because I posted it on our Instagram. Will Campbell or a left tackle is the number 1 option for me. Like Will Campbell looked pretty good week 1. He's got to put on NFL strength. He's a little weaker, but he moves so well. But I literally think Tedero McMillan he's 6'5" and he's going to run a 4.5. He gives me Mike Evans vibes, and that's a huge comp. But like what he does for his size, yeah, if Jalen Polk becomes that Z receiver that we think he can, Pop can sit in the slot, and you get a 6'5" Tedero McMillan. Yeah, I mean, I get it. We need to protect Drake May. We for sure need to. But like, just imagine in a world where Caden Wallace develops or something, he becomes a viable left tackle option. Not even like an elite one, but one that we were like, hey, we can still win with this guy. Owenu continues to play right tackle. City Sal comes back healthy. Layden Robinson develops at guard. Hey, after a year of experience, maybe you do just say, hey, let's take Tedero McMillan. He's 6'5". He's going to be a dog on the outside. Let Drake May throw up some fade balls to him and stuff. So there's a world where I love taking Tedero McMillan, but it's also like this offensive line's the scariest thing that the Patriots have to deal with this year. So,
yeah, no, I agree. Just looking at the poll, 85% of people said 3 to 5 wins, 14% said 6 to 8. So that's optimistic in my eyes, but I think 3 to 5 is probably a realistic range there.
For sure. So, well, you want to get into some game previews, Cole?
Yeah, sure.
Get the game preview. Okay. Patriots take on the Bengals. They are on the road this week. They are 7.5 point underdogs. So talk about some of the things. Obviously, we have the injury report. Do you want to hit on the injury report first? We did post it on our Instagram, so you can look at that. Obviously, City Sal did get ruled out for the Patriots, so he will not be playing, which is a huge loss. Offensive line's already not very good, and now you're losing your starting left guard. So what other takeaways do you have from the injury report, either from the Patriots or from the Bengals?
Yeah, so just starting off with the Pats, like you said, City So out, didn't practice all week. Vidarian Lowe, abdomen injury. He was limited the past couple of days of practice. He's questionable. It didn't seem optimistic at the beginning of the week, but Mayo did say it was trending in the right direction, and there's a little bit of hope there. So maybe they kind of rotate him in. It doesn't play him full time, but it's just interesting to see what the line combination is going to be, because your ideal combination is Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, City So at left guard, which he's not going to play there, so it's going to be probably Michael Jordan. David Andrews center, Layden Robinson playing left guard maybe this week, and Mike Onwenu playing right guard, and then Chuks Okorafor or Caden Wallace at right tackle. Like, that's your ideal 5. But they've been practicing with Mike Onwenu at right tackle, Robinson at right guard, Andrews at center, Michael Jordan at left, and who else have they been rotating at left guard?
It was oh my gosh, who is it?
Oh yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking on it. He was playing center. Nick Leverett.
Yeah,
right?
Lever. I was gonna say it wasn't a left guard. Yeah.
Leverett. So I don't think they're gonna be able to just flip the line back while practicing like this all week if Vidarian Lowe's healthy. So we might not see that for a couple weeks. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that, but he might rotate with Chuks Okorafor at left tackle. Antonio Gibson, hip questionable. He said he's trending to play is without any setbacks. He'll be playing. And then Uche with a foot injury, he's questionable, was limited all week. Yeah, so that's the Pats injury report. And then a couple notable ones for the Bengals. T. Higgins hamstring is doubtful. That's a big one. And then Jamar Chase is questionable with no injury, just contract situation. But he said he's got a good 50 snaps in him. He said he doesn't need a contract to play, but he thinks they're close. It seems like he's going to play. I don't know how much. Hopefully not a lot, but it seems like he's going to play, and he's going to be out there pretty consistently. So hopefully he's a little rusty. And then Chris Jenkins, D tackle for them, thumb injury, he's out. And Amarius Mims, tackle, offensive tackle with a pec injury, he's out as well. So the big two, the wide receivers, a lot of question marks there. But it looks like Jamar Chase will be playing and T. Higgins will not.
Which, I mean, I love our corner room. Like, I think that it would be great to see how they hold up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but that's why we said just a couple minutes ago, this is a winnable game, right? If you're missing T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, or just even T. Higgins, this is a winnable game. Like, they don't have that great of a running game either. They lost Joe Mixon, so it's going to be Chase Brown and Zach Moss that doesn't scare you. That doesn't scare me personally.
No.
It's all about Joe Burrow on the passing game and stuff. And so there's a way to win this game tomorrow. And obviously, Joe Burrow coming off of his injury from last year. Yes, he's practiced most of the time in training camp, and then gotten reps and stuff. And Joe Burrow's one of those guys probably doesn't need many reps, but it still is something to look after because that's a top 5 NFL or top 5 receiver in the NFL that is potentially missing. And then another one who a lot of Patriots fans want to be a Patriot next year, and T. Higgins, if he doesn't re-sign with the Bengals, and have wanted him for a couple years. So
DK Metcalf.
Those are 2 huge losses for them. DK Metcalf.
That's the next.
Tedero McMillan.
That's the next
cheaper.
plan right there. Who?
Tedero McMillan. He's cheaper.
Oh,
yeah. The Arizona receiver.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, those are 2 huge losses for them and would be a huge storyline and would be a huge opportunity for the Patriots to leave with a week 1 W that a lot of people don't think that they would leave with. So you go in there, you take advantage of that, take care of business on the road week 1 because of some injuries. Hey, now maybe they do get to 6 wins, right? We just said, hey, 5.5, or we'd set the line at 5.5, probably take it at 5. All it takes is for something like this to happen. You go in, take a win. Now you have 6 wins in the season. And yeah, that doesn't change much. Maybe now you're picking at 13, 14, but still you're going in there and picking up a win in a game that you shouldn't have won. And you're getting some experience for some of these young guys. So those are 2 huge losses for them.
Yeah. I just threw up a poll for the game lines there. If anybody wants to give their thoughts on that, but yeah, that if they're down those top 2 receivers, you feel pretty good about your chances because that's a lot of their offense right there. And with Burrow starting slow each year, especially without his 2 receivers, like that offense might not have a great way to move unless Mike Gesicki just turns into an incredible tight end. So I think it's going to be. I still think that Chase is going to play. Maybe there's a little bit of rush there. He hasn't got hit a lot, but it's going to be a tight game. I don't know if we're picking the spread yet, but I think it's going to be a close game, and I think the Bengals will probably pull it off because I think Chase is going to play more than some people think. But if he doesn't, I think the Patriots could squeak one out and get an upset here. That'd be great week 1.
Yeah, Dennis says Patriots 24-20. We'll do a score prediction at the end once we get through all this stuff. Let's just go. Do you think that they cover the 7.5 point spread?
Yeah,
I do too. I think this is when I first saw it, it was at like 9 too. That's a pretty big spread for week 1 in the NFL. A couple injuries. I'm sure it came down because of T. Higgins and stuff like that. That's a pretty big spread. And I personally don't think Jacoby is going to look as bad as he did in the preseason. Well, at least I hope not. Obviously, and then we're going to have, Ramondre is going to be full go. The defense is going to be full go. I think this team's going to come out and look a lot better than what they did in preseason, even though they looked pretty good when Drake May played. I think they cover the 7.5 point spread. We'll get to a score prediction and stuff at the end, but I agree. I think that they cover the 7.5 points. Even if they lose by a touchdown, they cover the spread. Like that's a lot in the NFL. 7.5 points is a lot in the NFL. You see some spreads in college, which are like 38.5, and most of the time they cover and stuff, but 7.5 points in the NFL is a lot of points. So I would feel comfortable saying the Patriots are going to cover this spread. So
yeah,
we'll get to a score prediction and stuff after once we get through some other stuff. But anything else on the game, maybe some keys, who you're watching, what you're watching, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that left side protecting Jacoby's blind side, you got to find a way to slow down Trey Hendrickson. Like Chooks is not going to be able to do it by himself. You're going to have to give him a lot of attention, and the rest of the O-line is going to have to hold up, like chipping with tight ends. It's just that's going to be the biggest issue with the Patriots offense that they're going to have to deal with is him for sure. So the O-line's gotta hold up. And like I mentioned earlier, the run game is going to be extremely important. The Bengals have struggled against that. In the past. They added some pieces this year to help out with that, but it's still a weakness for their defense. So running the ball, you got to run the football and do it successfully. And then as far as the other side of the ball, obviously, Gonzo, you're going to put on Chase if T. Higgins isn't playing, and I would still give him some help. It's early in the season. So maybe you end up doubling Chase and then Don't let the rest of the guys beat you. They don't have anybody else who's crazy on that offense. And if we can get some pressure on Burrow, that'd be great. But it's going to be fun. I'm very interested to see how it plays out with the whole Burrow to Chase situation. But I think that's your main keys is slowing down Trey on that outside. You got to slow him down. You got to run the football, and you got to make sure that Chase is not winning that football game for them.
I'm also really interested to see Alex Van Pelt is very familiar with the Bengals, right? He's coming from the Browns, who have played the Bengals twice a year, every year he was there. I'm interested to see how he attacks his team, what his game plan is. Obviously, it's his first game as an offensive coordinator for the Patriots, regular season game. What's his plan of attack? How much does he change? I'm sure they hid a little bit in the preseason. They didn't just let everything go out and stuff. So I'm more interested in the game plan. I'm seeing some comments here, right? Jermaine saying screens are going to be a big part of the game. Red Patriots saying that hopefully they can fix the O-line. That's going to be huge. Jermaine also says that they're going to have some end arounds. I'm interested to see how he knows this team. Like, this is not, hey, we're playing an NFC team that we only play every 3 or 4 years. No, this is an AFC team that the Patriots are familiar with, but Alex Van Pelt is familiar with because he was in the division with them in the AFC North. So I'm interested to kind of look at that and say, hey, he knew how to attack them. He's familiar with them. I'm sure he's talked with Stefanski over there in Cleveland too and been like, hey, what have we liked before? I mean, I know we did this. Do we still like that? I mean, I'm sure that they're kind of not collaborating, but I'm sure they've had those discussions, right? Like, he's going to have some sort of plan because of how familiar he is with these guys. I'm sure that if, say Josh McDaniels was on the Patriots a couple years ago and he just left to the Raiders and the Raiders were playing the Bills week 1, there would be, he would have some familiarity with them. Like, he knows the team. He'd be familiar against playing them. So offensive scheme, and it kind of goes into the offensive line, right? How does he, because he knows that the Bengals, they're not elite defensively, but they have Trey Hendrickson. They have good players up front. So how does he work around that? Play action boots, screens, end around misdirections to kind of get them on their heels. So I am really interested in kind of seeing that and how he kind of maneuvers the whole offensive line situation. I would expect there to be shuffling along the offensive line. I hope that it's just one combination the whole game and they play good. But I also think that, hey, if Darren Lowe starts, there might be a point where he gets pulled out. He struggled most of the time he's played and stuff. So how does he kind of maneuver that offensive line would be kind of my question. How does he game plan and call the game to help him? So,
yeah, I think that's one of the biggest points. I just heard Van Pelt's familiarity with that Bengals team. Like you mentioned, played each other twice a year for multiple years. And he was the OC. He didn't call plays, but he was a big part of that game plan. So I guarantee you he has plenty of notes on and remembers how they should attack them. Like, that's going to be a big thing there. I mean, the other thing to think about, the other side of the coin, is that the Bengals have played the Browns offense. So I'm sure they have their own game plan for that as well. But hopefully he added his own wrinkles for the Patriots offense for some of the players that we have as opposed to the Browns, because it's not the same team. They can't do things exactly the same. So I'm excited. We'll see. I hope that Polk looks good. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of Javon Baker, which is disappointing. That hype train has slowed down to a halt, a complete stop. It just concerns of off the field issues before the draft was kind of one of the things that people worried about, and we're already seeing that come to fruition. And he said he doesn't regret anything he said, any comments he made, and talked to Mayo. So don't love that. He doesn't seem to have a great attitude about it. I don't think he enjoys not playing, but apparently he's been dropping balls in practice left and right as well on top of that. So it's tough. It's tough to see that. Hopefully he can turn his mindset around and fix things for the upcoming year, because we could certainly use him.
Yeah, I mean, that's I don't want to say a big loss, but that's a guy that is similar, in my opinion, to Kayshon Boutte. If those two could figure it out, you might not need to draft or sign another or trade for another receiver. Like, they would be really freaking good, and they could really make a big impact on this team. But I mean, it's kind of
Jermaine hit it on the head here.
Yeah. Baker is starting to feel like Jack Jones. Oh gosh, I like Jack Jones a lot too.
He was playing good. Like, he was a solid player, and he just couldn't, for whatever reason, he just couldn't keep his head out of his ass. Like, I don't know. It's yeah, just it's frustrating that this is what you're already talking about with a guy who we were so excited for them to draft based on talent, and he's just struggling to catch the ball. Things popping up off the field. It's like, come on, like you just got here. Just I don't know. I'll never understand why people do what they do sometimes and why they have
So
to make such a scene.
a part of me, and I don't want to trash the organization and trash the reputation, right? Obviously, every coach has their own philosophy. There is something about certain organizations that they take players like Javon Baker or players that have these issues, and they can still make them into good players. So I know that Bill Belichick kind of had a way with like older guys and maybe guys that were past their prime, but I don't want to say that there needs to be some give and take, right? I'm not telling Gerard Mayo, or I'm not saying that the Patriots should be like, oh, let's forget about this and stuff. But gosh, there's a guy with a lot of talent. You got to find a way to make it work, in my opinion. And then obviously, if you give him 5, 6, 7 chances and he just keeps, then you got to cut ties. There's got to be a point where you cut ties, but I would hate for them to cut ties too soon and then have him go to like the Chiefs or something and have him be a freaking really good receiver or something like that. You know, the Chiefs seem to, they did it with, Rashee Rice, right? He's really good. He had those off the field issues. They kind of got it figured out. There's been other multiple instances. So I'm not saying give him every chance in the world and don't cut him, but with how much talent he has, maybe it's going to take a year or so. Maybe it's going to take a year to kind of get that out of him, or, let him develop a little bit more, develop his hands and stuff. But yeah, Dennis, Pittsburgh is notorious for that. Pittsburgh was really good at that too. And so, I'm not saying we need to change our whole thing, but gosh, there's a guy with so much talent here. Let's try to work with him a little and get it figured out. Cause if he figures it out, he can help this team so much.
Yeah. And I'm not saying to cut the dude right now. I'm just saying like, there's got to be at the same time, there's got to be effort on both sides. Like
for sure. I agree.
The Patriots can't just be saying like, dude, you need to stop doing this. So yeah. And keeps doing it. Like if he has an awful attitude, he's doing dumb shit and he's not making plays on the football field. It's like, okay, like what do you want us to do? Like, throw you in the game and have you drop 5 balls and then be grumpy on the sidelines when you're benched? Like, so there needs to be an attitude change from him, and maybe the organization can do something to help with that. But, it's just, I don't know. It's just frustrating when these situations pop up. It's like you have so much talent. Just figure out that just throw your phone out the window and don't touch it. Like I don't know what you need to do, but I don't know. So I think that's something too, where when you have a veteran locker and when you have Tom Brady, Devin McCourty, Matt Slater, those guys, I think that can kind of help with the culture. But when we have so many younger guys and some younger leaders, like there's not as many guys maybe to check him on the offensive side of the ball. Like Hunter Henry, maybe. Like I don't know. Like he doesn't seem like the guy that would do that. So I just don't think we have enough star power and veteran leaders who have proven it in the game, who can take this kid under his wing and be like, listen, you need to get your shit together. So I don't know. It's interesting. Not that this was the Javon Baker show, but I guess we could just get our thoughts out there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So Dennis says Mayo trying to create a culture, and if he does that, he's not going to be around here because he would bring bad culture. And it is about, like, you can't lose your locker room over something like this. Like any player, right? It's not just a certain player. Any player, you can't lose your locker room over something like this. So I will say that. And winning does help buy in, Jermaine. Yeah, like if you're winning a lot of, and the other thing is, and this is on him, if you're playing well and you're starting, you're probably not complaining, right? Everyone wants to play. And that's where I do agree with you. That's on him, right? Hey, if you want to be happy and you want to play, that's on you.
Football.
Catch the football. Catch the freaking football. That part was solely in control by him. So I totally agree. But let's get into some pick'ems. We're going to run a quick ad here by Underdog. And as we do, and then once we do that, we'll kind of get into our pick'ems by Underdog Fantasy. Thank you to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. With Underdog, you have a chance to 20 times your money in a single night. You just have to choose higher or lower for whatever player stats you want, and you have a chance to win big. Pick anywhere from 2 to 5 players by downloading their app or going to UnderdogFantasy.com. And now with their pick'em insurance, you don't even have to hit on all your picks to win the money. So what are you waiting for? Make sure you use code PATCHDRIVE today for your first deposit matched up to $100. Yeah, thank you to Underdog, guys. And we're currently working on making a new graphic for that. Underdog is now matching your first deposit up to $1,000. Okay, we'll update our kind of ad stuff, but they are matching up to $1,000 this year in football season. So, I mean,
it's free money.
If you want to go deposit $1,000, you can get a free $1,000 to go play with and stuff. And so, you can do daily fantasy there. You can do over/under pick'ems. You can do whatever the heck you want. So make sure you guys get over to Underdog Fantasy. Use that code PATCHDRIVE, which is in the top right or top left right now, and you guys will be able to play along with us, win you guys some money, and hopefully have a really good season in the pick'em. So let's start off, though. Let's start here with Jacoby Brissett. They have his line set at 207.5 passing yards. Cole, are you going with the higher or the lower?
I'm going to say I think it'll be I think it's a good line. I think it's going to be, I think it's just lower. If he goes over, I think it might be like we were talking about earlier, a screen pass that goes for like 25 yards or something. But I just think they're going to run the ball so much. And if it's a close game, he won't have to be throwing the ball. If we start to get behind, that's maybe when you see those passing yards go over. But I'm just going to be hopeful that it's going to be a close game. We're going to have success running the football, and it's going to be just lower.
I agree with you. I'm going with the lower here. The only reason I'm going with the lower here is because they have Ramondre Stevenson set at 67.5. Ramondre Stevenson, we want to pick, is he going to score a touchdown? I think yes, because it's what you said. I think that the feature of this offense for tomorrow is Ramondre Stevenson. And even though the offensive line is not looking good, it's mostly my concern in the pass game. I think that they're able to get enough push up front. So I think that we're going to go under for Jacoby. I'm going to give Ramondre, I would go higher even on his 67.5 rushing yards, but for his 0.5 total touchdowns, I think he's going to score. He might score twice because I think he's the guy.
I think he's going to score as well. I just think he's most of our red zone offense. So if we get down there, I think it's going to be hand the ball to Ramondre. I think the other guy to watch out for in the red zone, like always, Hunter Henry.
Yep.
And then maybe Jalen Polk. We'll see. We'll see about him. But I think Ramondre, just if we get down in that area, it's going to be the Ramondre show. So I definitely think that if we're going to be scoring a couple touchdowns, I think it's pretty likely that he's going to be one of them.
For sure. So let's keep moving on here. Yeah, a lot of hires here. Let's talk about, so we talked about lower for Jacoby, but the highest receiver for the Patriots was Demario Pop Douglas, 35.5 receiving yards. You going higher or lower for Pop Douglas?
I'm going to say just barely higher. I'm going to say higher, just barely. He doesn't get a lot of targets downfield, but we saw a couple instances in the Washington tape where he was pretty open in some more intermediate routes, less of a like short slant route, or it was more of a mid crosser. And so if he catches one of those and then makes a couple plays on a screen play or whatever, I think they're going to want to get the ball in his hands. So I think that this is going to be higher.
I agree. I think he's the main, I love Jalen Polk. I think Jalen Polk's going to have a lot of targets, probably a lot of catches, but I think that Demario Douglas is the main guy right here with Kendrick Bourne out. I think that he is the guy that the Patriots are looking for to kind of get the passing offense going. Not that it's going to be a ton of passing or receiving yards for him, but I think it's more than 38.5. I could easily see him, getting, he could easily catch a 20-yard crossing route, on a play action pass. And he could also make a couple guys miss and break it off for 40. So I think this is higher for them. So, and then last one here, Kyle Duggar. Okay. Now I got to explain this to you guys. Underdog has what's called scorchers. Okay. So how scorchers work is everything is built on. So like you do an 8-leg parlay or whatever, everything's built on, hey, if you do one pick, you can double your money. If you do 2 picks, you can 4 times your money, 3 picks, 8 times. It always doubles. But there's certain picks that are called scorchers. Scorchers, how they're used is Kyle Duggar, you have a chance to 4.5 times your single or your money just by picking his defensive interception. So now if you have 20 times your money, now you times that by 4, you could almost like 80 times your money. Now, If I were to do this exact parlay that we just talked about for the Patriots, I would have a chance to 48.43 per times my money. So if I were to put $10 in, I'd be winning $480 just by including Kyle Duggar as a scorcher. So my question to you is, Kyle Duggar getting an interception tomorrow?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, Burrow had 4 picks in one of his openers. If he's trying to force something to Chase, maybe Duggar gets in there, or if Chase is not doing much and Duggar's on a tight end, he tries to force it in there. Out of 17 games, how many times are you going to get an interception? I just think it's mostly better. It's safer to bet on the lower. I can understand why that's a scorcher though, because if he gets that interception, that's big. I think there's a chance though. I think if you're going to see somebody get a pick this game, it's probably going to be either Duggar or Gonzo. So
yep,
I think that's the guy I would bet on if I thought we were going to get a pick. This game, I would say
he's
Duggar
always around the ball. He's always around.
The ball.
I agree. I think that if a pick was going to come, it's probably coming from the corner room. Marcus Jones, John Jones, Christian Gonzalez, one of those guys. Don't know if it's coming from the safeties. One, because if we're playing a ton of man, he's probably going to be matched up on Gesicki, and I don't know how many times they're going to target Gesicki. Maybe you get a tip drill overthrow in the middle of the field, and that's where it could come from. But I think if there's a pick coming, I would feel comfortable betting a couple other guys. So I'm throwing this one in there. I would not take it, but because there's a chance for me to, 40 times my money just by including him in my pick, he is going to be a part of my pick just in case. So I'm putting this one in there. You can pick from a bunch of different scorchers. If I were to go down the list and just read off all the scorchers for the Patriots game and Patriots players that you guys can pick, there's a ton of different ones. And there's a ton of really good ones too that you can take. So a couple of them would include, like Jacoby Brissett has one. If he were to have a rush or a reception touchdown, you can 4 times, or rushing or a receiving touchdown, you can 6 times your money. So do you think he's going to get a QB sneak? Right there you go. Ramondre Stevenson, is he going to have 13.5 plus rushing attempts? That one's a little bit lower. You could double your money right there by adding that scorcher in there. Another thing that Underdog's doing now, it's called vulture protection. If you pick a running back to score a touchdown, and they get their touchdown taken by a quarterback or a rushing touchdown taken by a quarterback, they're going to still give you the money for that one. So they have vulture protection on some running back picks. So you won't get hawked. Hunter Henry has a 7.54 scorcher to be the first touchdown scorer in the game. So if you think the Patriots are going to score first and Hunter Henry's there, you can 7 times your money right there. Jalen Polks is 7.32. Javon Baker to have a rush or a receiving touchdown is 10.5 times your money if you were to use Javon Baker for a rush or a receiving touchdown in your pick'ems on Underdog Fantasy. So again, guys, your first deposit up to $1,000 is matched with code PatchDrive at Underdog. So make sure you guys do that. Get some money, go win some prizes from Underdog Fantasy, and then hopefully you guys can share your guys' I don't want me and share your money, but come back to us and say, hey, look what we won. We chose the Javon Baker one and he ended up scoring a touchdown. And now I have, 100, or I won $1,000 or something because you put $10 down and you 10 times your money, whatever it is. Let us know if you guys win anything. So, but
yeah,
any
absolutely.
Final things, Cole?
I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be more interesting than it would have been a week ago when we thought Jamar Chase and T. Higgins were playing. I think it's going to be a close game, and I think that's fun. I want to see this team play in some close games and see what they're made of. So I'm excited. Obviously, I wish Drake May was playing, but I'm just so happy the Patriots are going to be back playing football. And there's so many things to look forward to, like see how Gonzo does against Jamar, see how this O-line holds up. Hopefully, Layden Robinson looks good, Ramondre. So I'm excited. Pop Douglas, Jalen Polk, we got plenty of guys to watch, and it's really just about having some good football games and seeing some of these young guys, seeing our future pieces look good. That's what matters. The future is what's important.
Yep. And let's wrap up right here. Dennis, we will probably not be, well, what do you think? Sunday night?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe after the 4:00 games, in between that and Sunday night, something like that. we'll see what our
schedules look like. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, and we'll try to get on, and if not, we'll for sure be on at some point next week to recap the game, and then obviously preview the one next week against the Seahawks. But drop it in the comments right now, Cole. We got to do it. 1 or 2 hot takes from the game. The stuff we haven't already talked about. 1 or 2 hot takes.
Oh boy, you got one off the top of your head?
I'm gonna go with Antonio Gibson receiving touchdown.
Hunter Henry 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns for Hunter Henry. Okay. And then I'll go with one more. Keon White. Let's go with more than one. I think he's gonna get 2 sacks. I'm gonna go with more than 1.5. 2 sacks for Keon White. Because I really don't think that. I mean, Trent Brown. We know what Trent Brown is. If he's playing like he did on the Patriots last year, geez, let's just put Keon White over there.
He's gonna be prime Trent Brown, and you know it. Like he's gonna lock himself in for this one game, and he's gonna suck the rest of the season. Like that's just who Trent Brown is. So, I don't use Instagram, so I can't send pics. We have a Twitter as well. I don't know if you use Twitter. I mean, we could probably add an email or something that you could send them to, or, yeah, we can figure something out. I guess my last one. I had one. I don't even remember what it was. Defense 4 turnovers.
Dennis says the defense 4 turnovers. That would be incredible. If they get 4 turnovers, the Patriots better freaking win.
Yeah. Is Ramondre over 100 yards? That's not super hot take, but I mean his line's at like 67, so
that's like a green sauce at a Mexican restaurant. It's like mild. Okay. It's a mild take.
It's a mild hot take. All right.
Yeah, you get it. You get it because it's good for your palate and stuff, and it adds a little flavor, but it's not like it's not scorch or it's not ghost pepper hot.
All right. 300 yards, Ramondre.
Okay, that's like you're eating the world's hottest chip.
Yeah, that's that one chip challenge.
That one. Yeah, one chip challenge. So no, but there's a couple hot takes. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll try to be on. Just turn on the post notifications on Instagram. On YouTube. If you do have an Instagram, follow us there. We'll always post stuff when we're going live. Anything else though, Cole?
I think that's all I got. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We know it was a different time than usual and it kind of got scheduled late, but thank you guys for tuning in. We always appreciate it and voting on the polls and everything. So hopefully we'll see you guys back Sunday night, but if not, early next week, and go Pats. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.